One more step, and this alliance ends forever.
Then prove you're stronger than your anger.
Stand down! Both of you, now!
In a top alien military academy, one quiet girl from Colorado made entire species afraid of Earth. She walked into their hardest tests, looked at pain that broke other students, and simply said one word: interesting. But the truth behind this will shock you. First, you will see how a young American woman from the Rocky Mountains treated their deadly training like a light hike. Second, you will watch the exact moment she beat their strongest combat instructor with her bare hands, while the whole academy stared in fear. Third, you will learn how one hidden Deathworld girl forced the galaxy to change its view of humanity forever. No weapons, no army, just pure Earth grit. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The warning lights flashed red and orange across the giant circular room. Loud alarms echoed off the metal walls. Two small drones hovered near the ceiling with bright blue and red lights. Rows of alien students and officers sat in the blue seats all around. Every single eye stared at the center of the floor. A tall green-scaled reptilian alien stood there gripping a sharp knife. His yellow eyes burned with anger. Opposite him stood a young human woman. She had long reddish hair pulled into a high ponytail. Her dark navy uniform fit her athletic body perfectly. She looked calm, almost relaxed. The reptilian alien snarled and stepped forward. The human girl simply tilted her head and smiled a little. An older human officer in the background shouted into his communicator. Sweat ran down his face. The big glowing signs on the walls all read the same two words: warning alert. Nobody in that academy had ever seen a moment like this. One quiet girl from a planet most of them had never visited was about to change everything they believed about power, strength, and fear. But this moment did not start here. It started months earlier on a world the galaxy called a Deathworld. Earth. Elena Kane grew up in the mountains of Colorado in the United States. The air was thin. Winters were brutal. Summers brought wildfires, storms, and animals that could kill a person in seconds. She learned to hike with a heavy pack when she was 10. She learned to stay calm when a mountain lion watched her from the trees. She learned that pain was just information, and fear was something you walked through. When the Galactic Council finally made contact with Earth, they labeled the planet Deathworld Class 4. That meant the environment itself tried to kill its own people every single day. Most species from soft, safe worlds looked at that label and felt pity. Some felt disgust. Almost none felt respect. Elena was 22 when the invitation arrived. The Galactic Unity Academy accepted only the top young minds and bodies from every member species. It was the most famous school in known space. Graduates became captains, diplomats, and commanders. Earth was allowed only 3 students in the entire first wave. Elena was one of them. She packed light. 1 uniform. 1 small bag. No weapons. When her mother asked if she was scared, Elena just shrugged and said the academy could not be worse than a Colorado whiteout in January. The transport ship that carried her away from Earth was clean and quiet. Soft lights, gentle gravity. The other passengers, tall blue-skinned beings and small furred ones, kept glancing at her like she might break. Elena found it funny. She spent most of the trip looking out the window at the stars and thinking about home. The academy itself sat on a massive station orbiting calm blue planet. White halls, perfect temperature, air that smelled like nothing. Gravity set to the soft average of a dozen gentle worlds. To most students it felt comfortable. To Elena it felt like a hospital. On her first day, she walked into the huge orientation hall. Hundreds of young aliens filled the seats. Scales, feathers, tentacles, carapace shells. They all turned to stare at the human girl with the reddish ponytail. Whispers moved through the crowd like wind. Deathworlder, fragile. Why did they let one in? She will not last a week. Alina found her seat and sat down without saying a word. She kept her face calm. Inside, she was already studying every exit, every camera, every possible threat the same way she used to study rocky trails back home. The head instructor was a tall silver-skinned, being named Overseer Lurak. His voice was smooth and proud. He spoke about unity, excellence, and the proud history of the Academy. Then he looked straight at Alina. "We have a rare guest among us," he said. "A human from the Deathworld called Earth. We will all watch her progress with great interest. Survival rates for Deathworld species in this Academy have historically been low." Soft laughter rippled through some of the rows. Alina met his eyes and gave a polite nod. She did not look away first. That night in her small private quarters, she wrote one line in the simple journal she had brought from home. "They think the hard part is coming. They have no idea what hard looks like." The real tests began the next morning. The first trial was called environmental adaptation. Students were placed in a large sealed chamber that could copy the harshest conditions of 100 different worlds. Burning heat, freezing cold, thick toxic air, heavy gravity, low oxygen. The goal was simple: stay conscious and complete a set of tasks. Most students trained for weeks in advance with special suits and drugs. Alina walked in wearing only her standard Academy uniform. The first cycle hit them with dry heat over 50 degrees and gravity 1.5 times normal. Aliens around her gasped and dropped to their knees. Alina wiped sweat from her forehead, tightened her ponytail, and started the obstacle course at a steady jog. She had run in worse heat in Arizona one summer. When the temperature slammed down below freezing and wind tore through the chamber, several students curled up shaking. Alina remembered winters in the Rockies. She kept moving to stay warm and finished her tasks, while others were still trying to stand. By the time the low-oxygen cycle began, half the class had tapped out. Alina's breathing stayed controlled. Her vision stayed clear. She had hiked 14ers with thinner air than this. When the chamber finally opened, Overseer Lurak and 3 other instructors stood outside staring at their data pads. Alina stepped out last. Her uniform was damp with sweat. Her face was flushed, but she was steady on her feet. One of the reptilian instructors, a broad-shouldered Varnak named Instructor Essereth, narrowed his yellow eyes at her. "You should be broken," he said in a rough voice. "Deathworld or not, these levels are designed to push every species to the edge." Alina looked at the chamber, then back at him. Her voice was quiet and honest. "It was interesting," she said. The word hung in the air. Interesting. Not hard. Not terrible. Not deadly. Interesting. Instructor Eserath's scales darkened. Several students nearby stopped whispering. Overseer Lurak's silver face went completely still. Alina simply asked where she could get water and walked toward the exit like nothing important had happened. But something important had happened. In that single calm sentence, the Academy felt the first crack in everything it believed about strength. The quiet human girl from Earth had looked at their worst environmental trial and called it interesting. And every instructor in that hallway suddenly wondered the same dangerous question. If that was only interesting, what exactly was normal on her planet? The drones in the ceiling recorded everything. The data pads logged her vital signs. Within the hour, the recording of her saying that one word began circulating through the instructor channels. By nightfall, even some of the advanced students had seen it. In the dining hall that evening, the tables near Alina stayed empty. Aliens glanced at her and looked away quickly. A few of the braver ones watched her eat simple food with steady hands and clear eyes. Instructor Essereth sat with 2 other combat teachers at a far table. His knife hand kept flexing. "She is hiding something," he growled. "No soft mammal walks through that chamber and calls it interesting. I want her in the sparring circle. Soon. One of the others warned him to be careful. Deathworld species sometimes had surprises. Sarath only clicked his sharp teeth. I will show the entire Academy what happens when a Deathworlder forgets her place. Alina finished her meal, returned her tray, and walked back to her quarters. She did not look worried. She sat on her bed, stretched her shoulders, and wrote one more line in her journal. They are starting to notice. Good. Outside her window, the calm stars drifted past the station. Inside the Academy walls, messages moved faster than light. Instructors reviewed her file again and again. Students argued in low voices. And deep in the combat wing, Instructor Sarath began planning a public lesson he believed would put the human girl back in her place. He had no idea he was about to give her the exact stage she needed. The next morning, the official notice appeared on every student screen. Special demonstration. Combat assessment. Open viewing. Alina Kane versus Instructor Sarath. The entire Academy would watch. Warning protocols were already being prepared. Medical teams were placed on standby. The big circular arena was cleared and lit. Alina read the notice while drinking water. She tied her reddish hair into that same high ponytail, checked the fit of her navy uniform, and allowed herself one small smile. Back on Earth, her old climbing friends used to say something before every dangerous route. She whispered it now in the quiet of her room. Send it. She stepped out into the white hallway and started walking toward the arena. Behind her, the station felt different. Eyes followed her. Whispers died when she passed. The air itself seemed tighter. In the control room, Overseer Lurak watched her on the cameras. His voice was low when he spoke to his aide. Keep every safety system ready. I have a feeling we are about to learn something the galaxy is not prepared for. The aide swallowed hard and nodded. Far below, the arena doors opened. Bright lights flooded the circular floor. The warning signs on the walls flickered to life one by one. Students and officers filled every seat. Drones rose into the air. Instructor Sarath stepped onto the floor first, knife already in his green-scaled hand. His yellow eyes locked on the entrance tunnel. Alina Kane walked out of that tunnel with calm steps and steady shoulders. The moment she appeared, the entire arena went silent. She stopped a few meters away from the big reptilian instructor, met his stare without blinking, and waited. The last safety barrier lowered. The drones armed their recorders. The big signs flashed brighter. Warning alert, warning alert, warning alert. Overseer Lurak's voice came over the speakers, tight and controlled. Begin. Sarath lifted the knife and took his first aggressive step forward. Alina's expression did not change. She simply watched him the same way she used to watch storm clouds roll over the mountains back home. And in that frozen second before the first real move, every alien in the Academy felt the same strange chill. The Deathworld girl looked interested again. Instructor Sarath moved first. His green-scaled body shot forward with surprising speed for his size. The knife flashed under the bright arena lights. He aimed straight for Alina's shoulder. A clean cut meant to teach a lesson without killing. Alina stepped to the side at the last second. Her boots slid across the smooth floor like she had practiced the move 1,000 times. The blade cut only air. Sarath's eyes widened. He spun and slashed again, lower this time. Alina jumped back. The tip of the knife passed inches from her stomach. She landed light on her feet and kept her hands open at her sides. The crowd gasped as one. Hundreds of aliens leaned forward in their blue seats. Drones buzzed lower to capture every angle. The warning signs on the walls pulsed brighter. Sarath snarled. Stand and fight, Deathworlder, or are humans only good at running? Alina did not answer. She watched his feet, his shoulders, the way his tail twitched before each attack. Back home in Colorado, she had faced angry elk, sudden rock slides, and once a black bear that rose up on its hind legs. Large, angry things always gave away their next move if you stayed calm enough to see it. As Sarath charged again. This time he came in hard and fast, knife high, free hand reaching to grab her arm. Elena dropped low under the blade. She swept one leg in a simple circle she had learned from old self-defense videos and mountain trail falls. Her boot caught his ankle. The big reptilian stumbled. His heavy body crashed sideways onto the floor with a loud thud that echoed through the arena. Silence fell for half a second. Then whispers exploded through the stands. As Sarath rolled up fast, scales dark with rage. He no longer looked like an instructor giving a lesson. He looked like a predator that had been embarrassed. He came at her with a flurry of strikes. High, low, side, thrust, each one faster than the last. Elena moved like water. She slipped past one cut, twisted away from another. Her reddish ponytail swung behind her but never slowed her down. She did not try to hit him yet. She simply refused to be where the knife was. Sweat started to shine on Sarath's scales. His breathing grew heavier. Elena's breathing stayed even. In the control booth overseer, Lurak gripped the edge of the console. Her heart rate is barely elevated, he said quietly to his aide. This level of stress should have her near panic. Instead, she looks focused. Down on the floor, Sarath roared and lunged with everything he had. He feinted left, then drove the knife straight toward her chest. It was a killing move now, no longer a demonstration. Elena's eyes narrowed. At the last possible moment, she stepped inside his reach. Her left hand clamped onto his thick wrist with shocking strength. Her right palm smashed upward into his elbow joint. There was a sharp crack. The knife flew from his grip and skittered across the floor. Sarath howled in pain and surprise. Elena still held his wrist. She twisted hard and forced the much larger alien down onto one knee. Her voice was calm and clear, loud enough for the nearest drones to catch. On Earth, we learned early that size and anger are not the same as skill. Pain is just a signal. Panic is a choice. She released him and stepped back 3 paces. She did not pick up the knife. She simply stood there waiting, hands relaxed, face almost curious. Sarath clutched his arm. His yellow eyes burned with something new. Not just anger. The first real spark of fear. He tried to stand, and his injured arm hung wrong. Medical drones dropped from the ceiling at once. 2 instructors rushed onto the floor. Overseer Lurak's voice boomed over the speakers. Enough. Demonstration over. Medical team, treat Instructor Sarath. Student Kane, return to the center and wait. Elena walked back to the middle of the circle without a word. The entire arena stared at her. Some students looked impressed. Most looked unsettled. A few of the younger ones scooted farther back in their seats, as if she might come up into the stands next. Sarath was helped away, still glaring over his shoulder. The knife lay forgotten on the floor until a small cleaning bot rolled out and took it. Elena stood alone under the bright lights. Her uniform was barely wrinkled. A thin line of sweat ran down her temple, but her posture stayed straight. She glanced around at the watching faces, and then up at the warning signs that still flashed orange and red. Overseer Lurak came down from the control booth. His silver skin looked paler than usual. He stopped several meters away from her, farther than he normally stood from any student. You were told this was an assessment, he said. Not a full combat engagement. You could have seriously injured an instructor. Elena met his eyes. He stopped assessing when he aimed for my heart. I ended it before someone got killed. That seemed polite. A few nervous laughs came from the upper seats and died quickly. Lurak studied her for a long moment. Your file says Earth is harsh. It does not explain how a young human female overpowers a trained Varnak combat instructor with her bare hands. Elena shrugged one shoulder. We grow up falling off rocks, running from storms, and carrying our own weight up mountains. Your gravity here is light. Your air is thick. Your training rooms are safe. It was interesting to finally move without holding back so much. That word again. Interesting. Lurak's face tightened. He turned to the watching crowd and raised his voice. Return to your schedules. This demonstration is concluded. Data will be reviewed. Students stood slowly and began filing out. Many kept glancing back at the human girl, still standing in the center of the arena. The drones stayed in the air longer than usual, recording her from every side. Elena was finally dismissed. She walked toward the exit tunnel at a normal pace. Behind her, she heard low voices. Did you see how fast she moved? He was going to kill her and she just stopped him. What else can she do if one human is like this? What is the rest of their planet like? In the hallway outside, 3 advanced students from different species stepped aside to let her pass. None of them spoke. Their eyes followed her until she turned the corner. Elena returned to her quarters, closed the door, and sat on the edge of her bed. She rolled her shoulders and checked her hands. No cuts. No bruises. She opened her small journal and wrote a few lines. They use knives like the danger is the blade. On Earth, the real danger is the person holding it and the ground under your feet. They are starting to understand. Tomorrow will be harder. Good. She did not know how right she was. That same night, the Academy leadership held an emergency meeting. Screens showed slow-motion replays of the fight. Elena's calm face. The exact moment she took the knife away. Her vital signs that barely rose. Instructor S. Sarath's medical report. Fractured arm joint. Deep humiliation. One of the older instructors, a tall insectoid being, clicked its mandibles. We should send her back to Earth. She is a disruption. Overseer Lurak shook his head. If we send her back now, the story spreads that a Deathworld student defeated one of our best, and we hid the result. No. We test her further. We find her limits. Every species has limits. A quiet voice from the corner belonged to the Academy's chief xenopsychologist. And if she does not have the limits we expect? No one answered. New orders went out before dawn. Elena Kane was moved to an accelerated evaluation track. Harder simulations. Live combat drills against multiple opponents. Psychological stress tests. Environmental extremes beyond the normal student levels. Full observation at all times. When Elena woke and checked her screen, the new schedule was already waiting. She read it once, tied her hair into its usual high ponytail, and smiled a small private smile. Outside her door, 2 security drones now waited to follow her everywhere. In the dining hall that morning, the empty space around her table had grown larger. Across the room, Instructor S. Sarath sat with his arm in a medical cast. His yellow eyes never left her. Elena ate her breakfast slowly. She could feel the fear beginning to take root in the Academy walls. It was quiet still, like the first cold wind before a mountain storm. But it was there. And she had only just started to show them what a Deathworld girl could really do. The new test started the very next day. Elena woke to bright lights and a loud chime. Her screen showed the first challenge, multi-opponent combat drill. 4 trained security units. Live weapons set to stun. Full recording. The whole Academy could watch if they wanted. She tied her reddish hair into the high ponytail, pulled on her navy uniform, and stepped into the hall. The 2 security drones followed close behind. Students pressed themselves against the walls when she passed. No one spoke to her. Some looked away. Others stared with wide eyes. The combat room was larger than the arena. Hard metal floor. Moving walls. Dim red lights. 4 tall figures waited in black armor. 2 had extra arms. 1 had thick plates like a beetle. The last one was a lean reptilian like Serath. Overseer Lurak's voice came from the speakers. Begin when ready. Student Kane, survive 5 minutes. That is the only goal. Elena rolled her neck once. Ready. The 4 units attacked together. Stun batons cracked through the air. One swung high. Another swept low. The beetle-like alien charged straight at her with heavy steps. Elena moved faster than before. She ducked the first baton, spun past the second, and used the charging alien's own speed against him. She grabbed his thick arm, turned her hip, and threw him into the path of the other 2. The crash was loud. 2 units went down in a tangle of limbs. The remaining 2 came harder. Elena took 1 stun hit on her shoulder. Pain shot down her arm, but she did not stop. She stepped in close, struck the weak joint under the helmet of the nearest attacker, and ripped the baton away. Now she had a weapon. The fight changed. She used the baton like a climbing tool she once carried on icy cliffs. Short, sharp hits. Perfect timing. She dropped the 3rd unit with a strike to the knee. The last one hesitated. That half-second was enough. Elena swept his legs and pinned him with the baton across his throat. The timer showed 1 minute and 40 seconds. She stood up, breathing steady, and looked at the cameras. Is that all? The room went quiet. Then the speakers crackled. Lurak's voice sounded tighter than usual. Drill complete. Report to medical for scan. Elena handed the baton to a waiting drone and walked out. Her shoulder throbbed, but she ignored it. In the hallway, the watching students backed up even farther. One small furred cadet whispered, "She is not normal," another answered. "None of them are." That is the problem. Medical scans showed bruises and a mild stun burn. Nothing broken. Her recovery rate shocked the doctors. Muscles that should have been damaged were already repairing. Heart and lungs looked stronger than any human baseline they had on file. The chief doctor pulled Lurak aside. Her body treats our hardest training like light exercise. If this is average for her people, we have a serious problem. Lurak stared at the data. Find out more about Earth. Quietly. While the doctors worked, Elena was sent to the next test. Psychological stress chamber. Dark room. Loud alien screams. Flashing images of death and failure. Temperature swings. Gravity shifts. Voices that whispered her worst fears in perfect English. Most students broke in under 10 minutes. Elena sat cross-legged on the floor. She closed her eyes and breathed the same way she did during whiteout storms back home. Slow. Deep. Steady. When the voices told her she would die alone in space, she almost smiled. She had already faced that fear on high mountains with no radio signal. 30 minutes later, the chamber opened. Elena stood up, stretched, and asked for water. The psychologists watching the screens looked pale. One of them muttered, "She was bored." Word spread faster than before. By evening, the dining hall went silent when Elena entered. Entire tables cleared. Instructor Serath sat in the corner with his cast. His yellow eyes never left her. Hate mixed with something colder now. That night, Elena wrote in her journal again. They keep raising the level. Still interesting. They do not understand yet. Earth does not make weak people. It makes people who refuse to stay down. Outside her quarters, the Academy leadership held another closed meeting. Screens showed Earth data that had been locked away for years. Old probe reports. Storms, predators, earthquakes, diseases, humans who climbed mountains for fun, humans who ran toward danger instead of away, humans who smiled after broken bones. The insectoid instructor clicked hard. We invited a monster. Lurak shook his head. We invited a student. But she is forcing us to see the truth. One human girl is bending this academy. What happens when more arrive? A new order went out before morning. Elena would face the final gauntlet early. A full day of non-stop trials designed for elite graduates. Extreme environments. Combat against 6 opponents. Puzzle under life-threat pressure. Leadership test with panicking alien cadets. No rest. No mercy. If she failed, they could send her home with reason. If she passed, no one wanted to say it out loud. Elena read the notice at dawn. She looked out her small window at the stars, then at her own hands. She thought of Colorado mornings, cold air, and the feeling of standing on a peak after a hard climb. She whispered to herself, time to show them the real Earth. When she stepped into the hallway, the 2 drones followed as always. But today more eyes watched from every doorway. Fear was no longer quiet. It lived in the way aliens moved aside, in the way conversations died, in the way instructors gripped their data pads too hard. Deep in the combat wing instructor, Serath flexed his healing arm and made a private decision. If the gauntlet did not break her, he would find another way. The Deathworld girl had embarrassed him once. She would not do it again. Elena walked toward the gauntlet entrance with calm steps. The big doors slid open. Red lights waited inside. Warning signs already flashed. Behind her, the entire academy held its breath. The hidden girl from Earth was about to stop being hidden. The final gauntlet doors slammed shut behind Elena. Red lights flooded the long chamber. The air grew heavy. Warning alerts flashed on every wall. A cold voice from the speakers listed the rules. No breaks. No help. Fail any section and the test ends. Survive them all and she would prove she belonged. Elena tightened her ponytail and stepped forward. The first section hit her with crushing gravity 3 times heavier than Earth. The floor pulled hard. Most species would drop flat in seconds. Elena bent her knees, breath deep, and walked. Slow at first, then steady. She climbed the steep ramp while the weight tried to smash her down. Sweat poured off her, but her legs never stopped. When the gravity finally dropped back to normal, she was already at the far door. Next came the freeze chamber. Temperature crashed below anything the Academy normally used. Ice formed on the walls in seconds. Wind screamed. Elena remembered Colorado blizzards. She kept her arms close, moved constantly, and used the ice itself to slide faster across the floor. Her fingers turned blue, but she finished the puzzle locks before the timer ran out. The combat wave started the moment she entered the 3rd room. 6 armored opponents rose from the floor. Stun weapons, live force fields. They attacked as a team. Elena did not wait. She grabbed the first one, used him as a shield, and drove the group into each other. She moved between them like she was dancing on mountain rocks. Hits landed on her arms and back. Pain burned. She ignored it. One by one they fell. The last opponent tried to run. She swept his legs and pinned him until the buzzer sounded. Outside the gauntlet, the observation deck was packed. Students, teachers, and officers stared at the screens in silence. Overseer Lurak's silver hands gripped the railing. Her body should be failing, he said. Any other student would be in medical by now. The chief doctor checked the live scans. Heart rate high but stable. Muscles tearing and healing at the same time. She is built for this. Earth made her this way. Instructor Serath stood at the back of the deck. His broken arm was still in a cast. His yellow eyes never blinked. He whispered to a security officer beside him. Money and favors changed hands. A small command code moved through the system. Inside the gauntlet, the 4th section began. Toxic fog filled the room. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Elena coughed once, then slowed her breathing the way she learned during wildfire seasons back home. She crawled under the worst of the fog, found the air vents by feel, and shut them down one by one. When the fog cleared, she stood alone in the center, eyes red but still sharp. The final leadership test waited. A group of young alien cadets were locked in a failing escape pod simulation. Alarms blared. Fake hull breaches. Panic. The cadets screamed and froze. Elena's job was to get them all out alive. She took command with a clear, strong voice. "You two hold that panel. You seal the door. Look at me. Breathe. We move together or we do not move." Her calm cut through their fear. She carried one injured cadet herself. She pushed another through a tight hatch. When the final door opened, every cadet was alive. They stared at her like she was something more than human. The gauntlet lights turned green. She had passed every section. Elena stepped out into the recovery hall covered in sweat, bruises, and dirt. Her uniform was torn at the shoulder. Blood ran from a cut above her eye. She still stood straight. The watching crowd parted for her in total silence. No one clapped. No one spoke. Fear had grown too large for noise. Overseer Lurak met her in the hall. His voice was quiet. No student has ever cleared the full gauntlet on the first try. Not even our best graduates. What are you? Elena wiped blood from her face with the back of her hand. I am a girl from Earth. That is all. Before Lurak could answer, the lights flickered. A new alarm screamed. The main arena doors opened on every screen. Instructor Serath's voice boomed across the academy. The Deathworlder thinks she is finished. She is not. One final public match. Right now. No rules. I will show everyone what happens when a human forgets her place. Students rushed toward the arena. Drones raced ahead. Warning signs exploded to life across the station. Elena looked at Lurak. He tried to stop it. Security codes locked him out. Serath had planned well. She rolled her sore shoulders and started walking toward the arena. Her boots left small bloody prints on the clean floor. Behind her, the doctor whispered. She should not even be standing. The circular arena was already full. Every seat taken. More aliens stood in the halls watching the feeds. Serath waited in the center. His cast was gone. Fresh armor covered his body. In his good hand he held a longer, sharper blade that glowed with real power. Not a training knife. A real weapon. Elena stepped onto the floor. The same place where this all began. The drones hovered. The orange warning signs flashed harder than ever. Serath pointed the blade at her. You embarrassed me. You scared my students. You made this academy look weak. Now the whole station watches me fix that. Elena spat blood to the side and smiled with cracked lips. Interesting. The word hit the crowd like a slap. Serath roared and charged. This time he was faster and stronger. The powered blade cut the air with a scream. Elena dodged the first swing, but the second burned across her ribs. Pain exploded. She dropped, rolled, and came up behind him. Her fist smashed into the back of his knee. He staggered but did not fall. They crashed together in the center of the circle. Fist, blade, elbow, tail. Elena took hits that would have ended any other student. Each time she got back up. Her vision blurred. Her arms felt heavy. Still she moved. Still she fought. In the stands, aliens covered their mouths. Some looked away. Others could not stop watching. Overseer Lurak shouted for security override, but the system stayed locked. Serath slammed her against the floor. The blade rose high for a killing strike. The entire academy held its breath. Elena's eyes cleared for 1 second. She saw the angle. She saw the opening. She whispered the same words she used on the hardest mountains back home. Not today. Her hand shot up. Elena's hand shot up and locked around Serath's wrist. The glowing blade stopped inches from her chest. Her arms shook. Blood ran down her side. But her grip did not break. She stared straight into his yellow eyes. You still do not understand, she said through clenched teeth. On Earth we fall. We break. We get back up. That is normal. She twisted hard. The same move she used in their first fight, only stronger this time. Serath's wrist cracked. The powered blade fell and shut off as it hit the floor. Elena rolled, pulled him down with her, and locked her legs around his chest. She wrapped one arm under his chin and held on. Serath thrashed. His tail smashed the floor. His free hand clawed at her arm. She did not let go. Years of holding onto rock faces in high winds and dragging injured friends down mountains lived in her muscles. She squeezed until his struggle slowed. The arena was dead silent except for their breathing. Overseer Lurak finally broke the security lock. Alarms stopped. Medical drones dropped fast. Security officers rushed in with weapons raised, but they froze when they saw the human girl still holding the much larger instructor on the ground. Elena released Serath and pushed herself up. She stood over him, bloody, bruised, uniform torn, and still on her feet. Serath lay gasping, arm broken again, eyes wide with real fear. Elena looked around the packed arena. Every alien face stared back at her. She picked up the dead blade, walked to the center, and set it down gently. I did not come here to hurt anyone, she said. Her voice was tired but clear. I came to learn. You called my planet a Deathworld like it was an insult. On Earth that word just means we keep going. Storms, beasts, cold, heat. We live with it every day. We do not quit. No one spoke. Overseer Lurak stepped onto the floor. He looked at Serath, then at Elena, then at the thousands of watching eyes on the screens and in the seats. His silver face had lost all its pride. Medical teams, take Instructor Serath. Student Kane, you have completed every test we have, including this one. Elena wiped blood from her eye. Does that mean I stay? Lurak was quiet for a long time. It means the Academy must change. You have shown us something we refuse to see. One human girl walked through our hardest trials and called them interesting. If Earth makes people like you, then humanity is not the weak new species we believed. You are something the galaxy has never faced. Whispers started in the stands and grew into a low roar. Fear, respect, shock, all mixed together. In the days that followed, the recording spread far beyond the station. Other academies requested the files. Galactic Council members watched Elena take down a trained Varnak instructor with broken ribs and a calm face. Earth received sealed messages asking for more information about human training, human childhood, and human limits. Elena spent a week in medical. Her body healed faster than the doctors liked. When she returned to classes, the empty space around her was still there, but it felt different. Students no longer looked at her with only fear. Some looked with curiosity. A few even nodded when she passed. Instructor Serath never returned to teaching combat. He transferred to a quiet desk post on a far station. Before he left, he sent Elena one short message. Your world is worse than the reports. I hope we never make you angry. Overseer Lurak called Elena to his office near the end of the term. He stood at the window looking at the stars. You will graduate early, he said, with full honors. But I need to ask you something honest. How many more of you are there? Elena thought of home. Colorado mountains. Kids learning to climb before they could drive. People who ran toward wildfires and flooded rivers to help strangers. quiet strength that never needed to shout. Enough, she answered simply. Lurak shivered, even though the room was warm. The Academy will never look at Earth the same way again. Neither will the galaxy. You did that alone. Elena tied her reddish hair back into its ponytail and gave a small, tired smile. I was never alone. I just carried my world with me. She left the office and walked the white halls one last time as a student. Drones still followed, but now they kept a respectful distance. Warning signs stayed dark. The circular arena was quiet. Months later, new human students arrived. The Academy treated them differently. Gravity training increased. Environmental rooms grew harsher. Combat instructors spoke with more care. And on the wall of the main hall, new plaque appeared with simple words. In memory of the day, we learned why Earth is called a Deathworld. Strength is not always loud. Elena Kane returned to Earth for a short visit before her first real assignment. She stood on a high Colorado ridge at sunrise, cold wind on her face, and laughed softly. The galaxy had finally started to understand. And it was afraid. Not of monsters. Of quiet human girls who looked at the worst the stars could offer and still called it interesting. The real shock was never Elena's strength. It was what her calm proved. Every alien academy that studied her files reached the same quiet conclusion. Earth did not produce soldiers first. It produced survivors who became soldiers only when needed. That truth spread through the Galactic Council like cold fire. Humanity was no longer listed as a young, weak species. New reports called Earth the quiet threat. One girl had forced the change. The opening moment in the arena with flashing warning lights was only the first crack. By the end, the entire system feared what else Earth might send. The hidden Deathworld girl never wanted fear. She only wanted them to see the truth. Now the galaxy watches the night sky differently, waiting for the next human who might smile and say the same dangerous word. Elena showed that real power often stays quiet until it has no choice. One calm human rewrote how the stars saw Earth. Survival, grit, and refusing to quit beat pride every time. The Academy learned fear the hard way. If you felt that fire, tap like and subscribe to HFY Sci-Fi for more stories where humanity quietly wins. Hit the bell so you never miss the next one. Watch the video on screen now for another Deathworld tale that hits even harder. Join the channel membership for early access and exclusive HFY lore drops. Tell me in the comments, what would you have said to the aliens if you were Elena? I read everyone. The galaxy is big. Humanity is just getting started. See you in the next story.